Hello folks, I have great news for you. I got access to Einstein for Flow before it is generally available. You may ask yourself, what is Einstein for Flow? Einstein for Flow is the AI that's going to help you build your flows in Salesforce. Now, nobody expects the AI to build your flows without your help. It's going to give you your first draft. You are still expected to review it, test and debug it, and deploy it. So regardless of that, we expect the AI to give us speed and accuracy and free us from some of the mundane tasks that we have to do to set up a flow, especially at the beginning of it. Now, without further ado, let me just demo for you what the current functionality is. It is promising, but we still have ways to get there until this is useful for people like me who have already advanced skills that they can apply on the flow canvas with speed and accuracy. And I'm wondering about your thoughts, so please comment below this video and let me know what you think about this and whether you can use this tool in your daily operation and when you expect that to happen. Recently, I wrote a blog post titled Top 12 Features of Summer 24, and Einstein for Flow was one of them. In Summer 24, we expect Einstein for Flow to be GA, generally available. But this is still to be determined. Now, before I dive into the demo, let me just tell you, this is very early in its development, and I'm actually looking at this in a sandbox in the preview release functionality. And also remember, Einstein for Flow is an added license. First of all, you have to have some kind of Einstein product activated. Then you can add on top of that Einstein for Flow. And if you're wondering how the licensing works and how much it costs, probably the best route you can take is to talk to your account executive. Now, I have this dev org in here. It's actually a sandbox, dev sandbox I have for my own Salesforce org, where I have Einstein for Flow available. It's activated. Now let me just go to setup and show you where we can see that. Now under setup, we go to flow. And if Einstein for Flow is activated, on the screen where we are supposed to do our flow selection, new flow, and here on this screen, on that left panel, we see the Einstein logo, the word Einstein, and we see some explanations and instructions on how to use this new feature. So it says, to get started, describe the task or process you want to automate, provide as much detail as possible to try to get better results. Give it a try now. And then if I hover over the help, it says generative AI can produce inaccurate or harmful output. Review the flow for accuracy and safety before using. You assume responsibility for how the outcomes of Einstein GPT are applied to your organization. And here we see an example. The instructions box here that we're supposed to fill out has an example showing, and it says, create a flow that runs every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and sets a leads priority as high if the annual revenue is greater than $100,000. Now, this is particularly interesting because this instruction, the example here, is inaccurate. Now, it took me a minute to realize that, but if you look at this carefully, you are going to remember that the lead object does not really have a standard field called priority, right? So that's the curious bit about this example. Now let's go see. This is the lead object, and I'm going to go to edit object from this menu here under the gear. And under my fields, I'm going to look for priority, and there is no field called priority. But as you remember, we have a rating here. Rating is a pick list, and one of the values could be hot, right? So that could be probably something that you can use for this example. Maybe that's what they meant, but the example here is unfortunately inaccurate. Now, I prepared a couple of prompts without much help or training. Therefore, my prompt writing skills or prompt engineering skills may not be up there, but in any case, I'm going to show you what this produces. Now, first of all, I want to feed the AI the example that's given in the prompt right here, exactly. So I'm going to paste that in here. I typed it earlier. I'm using my notepad to quickly enter some of this information in here. So I'm going to say create a draft flow. And I'm going to walk through the flow and observe a couple of things. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is on the left side, you see a warning. It says this flow was created by generative AI. Salesforce is very explicit and wants to note when a flow is generated by AI in the description of it. And here on the right side, we have a panel where we can instantly provide feedback whether this flow is the flow we're looking for or not. As you'll remember from other cases, the AI actually produces a slightly different result every time. So, you are not going to get the same output every time you try it. Now, on the left side, I'm going to look at my resources. I don't see anything special here. There is an update element, so there's the update lead here. Now, my instructions actually said, run this flow every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Curious enough, this flow was set up to run for the first time on August 1st, 2023, which is in the past, but at 9 a.m. as instructed, and it's going to run weekly after that. And, I was really curious. I looked up. This date is actually a Tuesday, but it is way in the past. So that's curious. It could run actually this way. I mean, when you set up a scheduled triggered flow to run, and you set a date in the past, you may get an error if you set it up to run once. But in this case, it actually is set up to run weekly. And the annual revenue needs to be greater than, and I'm checking the number here. It actually looks a little bit weird. There's a decimal here, Let's ignore the decimal. And I'm just going to count the zeros here. This is actually not $100,000. It's $1 million. So you want to be careful and you want to edit that, right? And then if that's correct, then we are going to go to our edit here. And our edit, as I told you before, cannot obviously update priority because there is no priority field on the lead. So it's updating the rating hot. So it does give us the correct update element, and it's configured correctly to update one of the pick list field values on the lead, and it's going to update it hot. So what we are expected to do here is to take this, edit it, and save it after we are confident it is what we want, right? Obviously we need to also remember to test and debug before we deploy. Now, the good thing about this one is it is not really auto-saved. So until I save this, it doesn't become one of the flows in my flow list. So I'm going to just go ahead and back out here. So let me just create a couple other flows based on prompts. So what would happen if I change my prompt a little bit? That's how AI works. We need to iterate our prompts. Now I'm going to feed it a slightly different prompt here that explicitly calls out May 7th, 2024 at 9 a.m. It's not asking for a recurring schedule. And this time I removed the comma delimiter inside the dollar amount. And I also removed the dollar sign here. Maybe it's confusing Salesforce. Now I'm going to create a draft flow out of this. As you can see now, again, this flow is starting on August 1st, 2023, and it's going to run weekly. So it did ignore my date entirely. It is on a recurring schedule. Let's see if my start element condition is correct. Now, you can see that the 100,000 here has been entered correctly this time. Once I removed the comma delimiter and the dollar sign, things look a little bit better. And again, the rating is going to be hot here, right? So I want to also try different types of flows. Let me just move along here and try, for example, I'm not going to save it. For example, a record triggered flow. I mean, in my trials, I realized that the AI is not very creative in interpreting what I want the AI to do to get things done in Salesforce. Like, I can't really tell the AI the use case or the user story for the AI to produce a flow for me. I need to kind of explicitly describe and call out what needs to be done in the flow. So I actually need good flow knowledge and skills to get things done here. So I'm going to paste another prompt here. This is going to be a long one. I'm describing clearly what the AI needs to do. Create a new record triggered flow that triggers on the opportunity update. It should trigger when the opportunity gets to the qualification stage. It should then create a task that is related to the opportunity, and it is assigned to the opportunity owner, due in 7 days from the opportunity update. The flow should also send an email to the opportunity owner's manager, asking them to follow up with this record both in the subject and in the body of the email. This is a particular example that I actually teach people to do in usually my first session of my course. This is as complicated as it gets when you're kind of entry level, right? So let's see if AI can do this for us. If AI can do this for us, it's going to give us speed because this is a tedious task. Now, as soon as I open this, I see that, it looks like I have only one element, first of all. I need two. When I open things up and separate things, I see that actually both elements are there, but for some reason the email action is not connected. So I'm going to connect that one. So this one creates a task and this one sends an email, right? So now I'm going to look at my start element, my opportunity when a record is updated, and the stage name equals qualification. It's going to run. It picked for me only when a record is updated to meet the condition requirements, which is actually a good choice because I have an email action inside this flow, right? When I'm sending out emails, I don't really want to send out duplicate emails when somebody's editing the opportunity and just changing something in the description or something like that, right? Every time they change something in the description, it would send out an email if I'm actually choosing this radio right here. So then let me inspect the create task. So the create task is actually empty in this iteration. I've seen in some examples where create task actually was filled out quite well, right? It just threw in a create task, one task, and use all values from a record, but obviously couldn't point to a record variable here. And here in my email action, I see, hello, this is a follow-up email, and etc. And I see that this email is going to the record owner's email address. And I also see that there is a subject that says follow up on the opportunity. So it's a good start. This run itself didn't really produce a good create task element, which is unfortunate. Let me actually try this one more time though. See if I'm going to get the same result. New flow. And I'm just going to simply paste the same thing. All right. So again, we have the create records, create a task, and the email here. And if I double click on my create task here, this time it's actually filled out nicely. So it's creating one task. It's using separate resources. Object is task here. Well, there's an activity date that points to a formula. We'll check that in a second. And the description is filled in. The owner ID is the $record owner ID. And the subject says set up on opportunity. Obviously, I can revise that. And the what ID points to the opportunity too. It's related to the opportunity. That's sometimes confusing when you get started in the flow canvas and you're creating tasks. So what does this formula say? Well, curiously, the formula name says last 10 days, date time, and this due date for the task is the close date of the opportunity minus 7 days. So we didn't really ask the AI to give us something like this, but it did do so. I mean, I can go in and edit this, obviously. That's what we got. All right, so moving along, let's try a different type of flow. So we've done the schedule triggered. We've done the record triggered flow. Let's do an AutoLaunch flow. So I have a prompt here that says create an AutoLaunch flow that receives a single account ID as input. The flow will get all the open opportunity records related to this account and create a task related to each opportunity, asking the opportunity owner to follow up. Now here I'm hinting to a loop, right? So this is a difficult one. I don't really expect the AI to be able to do this, but let me just see whether it can do that. All right, so let's inspect the input variable. So we have an account ID input here, but for some reason, this account ID input, it's a text variable. It's marked as a collection. So it is designed to accept multiple record IDs, right? So that's the first interesting thing. And we have a get opportunity here. Get opportunity has the account ID equals account ID, but because the account ID itself is marked as a collection, obviously that errored out. And the opportunity status is here in the second line of the criteria, but that's not the right field name, so that could not be really filled out, right? So that needs some work. So the created task is again filled out fairly well. And the account ID in the what ID obviously errors out because it is a collection. And the owner ID is set from the opportunity. And there is a subject, and the status and the priority are set as well. But obviously it doesn't really have a loop, and it's not doing what we want the flow to do. I'm going to paste another prompt here. And this one is going to read, create a screen flow that receives an opportunity ID as input using a text variable. I'm spelling out everything now to make sure that the AI does it the way it needs to be done. The flow should get the opportunity record and should show the values for these opportunity record fields using a screen element. Name, stage, close date, amount, and account. The user will be able to make changes on the screen, and these values will be updated to the record. So this is actually a screen flow example. So I'm going to create this draft flow. It's thinking quite a bit this time. And for some interesting reason, we have now a get opportunity record here. which is okay. Then we have a screen element. And then after the screen element, we actually go back to the get opportunity step. Well, that's really curious that we didn't really ask for anything like that. Let's look at the resources here. So we have an input variable. Our input variable is text, and again, it's marked as collection. So it doesn't expect a single record ID, it expects multiple. And then when you go to get here, get opportunity, what does it do? So it's going to try and add a condition where ID equals the input variable, but the input variable is a collection, so it's not gonna work, right? So this needs to be fixed. But I mean, that's the right idea. You got the opportunity, let's say. Did it give me a screen? It did give me a screen, AI generated flow for screen flow that receives a name, stage, close date, and account name. Now that's not bad. Those are the things I asked. Probably not all of them, but the amount is not there. I think I asked for the amount as well. Now, are the default values set here? Are these being pre-filled from the record? No. So nothing is set here other than the name of the component. And do these get then updated in the cloud? Do we have an update element? No, we don't really have an update element. So that actually did not really work very well, right? It seems like it's doing best with record triggered flows. Let me throw it an example of a record triggered flow that is asking for somehow enhanced functionality. So I'm going to click on new flow here. Now paste the prompt. Create new record triggered flow that triggers on the opportunity update. It should trigger when the opportunity gets to the qualification stage. If the amount is greater than 100,000, it should create a task that is related to the opportunity and is assigned to the opportunity owner due in 2 days from the opportunity update. If the amount is less than or equal to 100,000, then the flow should send an email to the opportunity owner's manager asking them to follow up with this record both in the subject and the email body. This is an example of a record triggered flow where I'm actually asking for a decision. So I'm wondering whether it can handle a decision. So I'm going to throw that at Einstein and see what Einstein gives me. All right, so Einstein gave me a record triggered flow. The condition was the same as before. So stage name equals qualification. We know it can do that. It did that well. And then it actually gave me a send email. It's sending an email with email body. Interestingly, now the email body has a resource in it. It's using a resource. I need to check that. Dollar record owner email is the email address that this is going to. It has a subject. What did it use as body here? Email body is here. Hello, dollar record owner first name. Please follow up on the opportunity. Thank you. So yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know it could do text templates. So it does text templates. But as you can see, it actually ignored my conditions. It didn't add any task. It just did the email part for this. So let me just leave it at that. Remember though, this is very early in its lifetime and it is going to improve in time. It's going to get trained much better in the near future. And it is an iterative process. The product itself is an iterative product. So as you give the product the same prompt even multiple times, it's going to give you different results potentially. And the whole feedback loop and the cycle that we have here with thumbs up and thumbs down, it's supposed to train the model with use. Well, thank you very much for watching, and please remember to comment below what your thoughts are, whether this product is a product that you would like to use. When would you like to look at it, tackle it? Is it exciting for you or not? And just one note here before I leave you, I started offering merchandise on salesforcebreak.com. If you go to salesforcebreak.com, now you can order this hat over here, this t-shirt over here. There are a couple of other things that you can look at and order if you would like to do so. Thank you very much for your support. If you like this video, give me a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel.